What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, we've got another live fantasy football mock draft for you back on FantasyPros with a 10-team full PPR mock, and we'll be selecting from that final spot, 10th overall. So it should be pretty interesting. We've got a typical roster here, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and then 5 bench spots. So let's get into it. And while we wait, a quick reminder, if you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. And let us hear it in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree with these picks? What are your thoughts on the team, along with any other questions you guys might have? We will do our best to answer them all. And a final reminder, we will have our 2022 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide dropping shortly. That'll be announced as soon as it goes live, so keep an eye out for that. But with all of that being said, let's dive into this thing. And boy, oh boy, we have got some tremendous choices here. So looking at the draft board, I'll break down the first round to see if anything crazy happened. But honestly, nothing too wild. You see Taylor, you see McCaffrey, Eckler, Najee Harris. Full PPR, very typical. Then Cooper Kupp. Yep, no issues there. Derrick Henry. I mean, he's got 2,000-plus yard upside. So yeah, he's going to be going in the first round. Then Joe Mixon, then Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson. So the top 2 wide receivers are off the board. So don't really have to debate going a wide receiver here. Those were the only 2 guys, Kupp and Jefferson, if they were somehow available to me with that 110 and 201 picks that I would be considering. But I would have still probably honestly gone back-to-back running backs. And right now, a guy that I really, really like is on the board that I've been touting to potentially be the next Austin Eckler. That is DeAndre Swift. Quietly, this Lions offense is just on the come up, and I like DeAndre Swift. I think, he's kind of like a Kamara type, an Eckler type, an Aaron Jones type, all guys that are tremendous PPR producers and guys that we're going to end up with on our team, because after we take DeAndre Swift, well, we have got obviously a second pick to make. I'm not going wide receiver here. I'm not going tight end. I'm going to go a running back yet again. And the 2 running backs I'm looking at, Alvin Kamara and Aaron Jones. So if we want to do kind of the safer approach here, I would say it favors going Aaron Jones, because maybe with Kamara, you're still a little bit worried about that Pro Bowl incident he had. You want to wait until August, September, until we know for sure that he's not going to miss any time. If he doesn't, then he's got Jameis Winston. As long as Jameis Winston is the quarterback there, I'm fine with Alvin Kamara. But if something happens to Winston, his value is going to crash. So I do think Aaron Jones without Devontae Adams in town is going to have tremendous PPR value. So I'm going to go with Aaron Jones actually over Alvin Kamara. He's a guy that I absolutely love in 2022. So we end up with a duo that I really, really like. 2 just, in my opinion, top 10 PPR guys. Now, though, let's see what happened in this third round, and then obviously the remainder of the second round. So you see Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase, Javonte Williams way too early for Williams. He's going to be in a running back by committee. And honestly, I think best case, it's like a 60-40 split. Melvin Gordon is going to take away touchdowns. There's a lot of just no thank you to Javonte Williams when you can have an Alvin Kamara, you can have a Leonard Fournette, you can have a David Montgomery, a Saquon Barkley ahead of him. Then you see Travis Kelce. What I do like here is that Travis Kelce is being selected ahead of Mark Andrews. I think that should be the case. I have him as my number 1 tight end across all formats. Then afterwards, you see the Kamara pick, good value, Connor, Leonard Fournette, Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb. So a late run on pass catchers here in the kind of third round. You see Mark Andrews, Debo, Tyreek, Josh Allen. So Allen, the first quarterback off the board in the third round. A.J. Brown. I was really, really hoping that either Keenan Allen or Mike Evans would fall to me. That was not the case. So what we can do here is, either go back to running back or go with wide receivers that I think are very, very undervalued. And that's probably the way I'm going to do it here. So I think this will be a good exercise to not blindly just follow the cheat sheet or the recommended player selections, because ultimately, there's tremendous value hiding out here. And I think guys like a Allen Robinson or guys like a Mike Williams are, that tremendous value. I can also go with the positional advantage in quarterback and or tight end and somebody like a Kyle Pitts or George Kittle or a Darren Waller. So all those guys are options, but the way I'm going to do it here is I'm going to, some guys that I really like, also Travis Etienne. I know it's going to be called a reach, but I don't really care. I have Travis Etienne as a guy that is tremendously undervalued. So the way that I might do this is I might go with a Patrick Mahomes here, and then afterwards go with a Travis Etienne. But then we're going to be really bare at the wide receiver position. That's the tough part. But it can also serve kind of as an example of afterwards targeting guys like a Allen Robinson and Mike Williams and just show you that we'd be perfectly fine with those two guys as our starters. I really, really do believe that. So we're not going to get a good grade on this draft. I'm already going to tell you right now, but this is going to be a great example of a draft to watch to see, what my rankings are and to highlight guys that are criminally undervalued and how to build a good team in a 10-team league where you got to get some positional advantages. So that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to go with first Travis Etienne, a guy that I mentioned that I think is very, very undervalued. I think he's got top 10 running back upside. So let's go with him here. It's going to absolutely hate that pick. I don't care. Then tight end potentially here, because I do think we're going to have a chance at landing, a Kyler Murray. And I don't think the drop-off between him and Patrick Mahomes is all that much. So I'm looking at wide receiver. I'm looking at tight end. Those are pretty much the two main positions. And right now, maybe I'll actually go wide receiver first. And I'll go with a guy in Michael Pittman that I think can have a nice breakout season with Matt Ryan, some more stability there. So let's see how this pays out. Let's see if the gamble kind of works and if some of those guys that I mentioned are still available to us. So I'm looking at the tight end position, and Darren Waller is still available. I think that's awesome value. So after our Michael Pittman selection, you see Antonio Gibson, Kyle Pitts, there he goes, Cam Akers, Zeke. Not really worried about the running back position anymore. We've got three studs that I really like. Higgins, Jalen Waddle, Deontay Johnson, David Montgomery, good value on him there. DJ Moore, Metcalf, Amari Cooper. I wouldn't be selecting DK Metcalf this early, especially in PPR scoring without Russell Wilson. Josh Jacobs, Justin Herbert in the 5th round, so he's a second quarterback off the board ahead of Patrick Mahomes. Interesting. Patrick Mahomes at the 507, Terry McLaurin, George Kittle right before us. So a couple things to point out. First and foremost is the fact that we still have guys like a Darren Waller as an option and Kyler Murray. So honestly, what I think will probably end up happening if we don't get Kyler Murray now or Lamar Jackson, we won't have a chance to do so. So I think that's going to be one of my picks and kind of get that positional advantage at least at quarterback / tight end if we go with Darren Waller. I've got Michael Pittman. I'm really, really tempted here to go with Allen Robinson and then Mike Williams as one of my picks, or hell, maybe even both of my picks. But I'm going to try and build, that team in terms of the positional advantages. Since it's a smaller league, 10 team versus 12 versus 14, you get the point. So let's get quarterback taken care of here with one of these picks. So let's go Kyler Murray. I've got more faith in him than I do Lamar Jackson. And then we're going to go with either a wide receiver here or a tight end. I do think Dalton Schultz actually might be available to us in the next round, so I'm going to go with a wide receiver here. And the guy that I'm going to go with is probably Allen Robinson. Yeah, I really like Allen Robinson. I think him opposite Cooper Kupp is going to be a tremendous, tremendous duo. So let's get Allen Robinson there and then see what happens. I'm guessing Mike Williams won't fall to us, which it is what it is. It's a situation where I think he's, again, similar to Allen Robinson, just very, very undervalued right now. But looking at the 6th and 7th round, you see Godwin, you see Breece Hall, Too early, in my opinion, for Breece Hall. Hopkins, way too early for Hopkins, considering Marquise Brown is still available, and Hopkins is going to miss a third of the year. Cortland Sutton, there goes Darren Waller, awesome value on him. Jerry Jeudy, Mike Williams, so there goes Lamar Jackson, and a huge run on quarterbacks in the 7th round. So I was very much so right that Kyler Murray, that was kind of the spot to pick him. We could have gambled if we were picking in the middle of this draft, but that's not the case. That's what happens when you're at one of these extremes, picking first or last overall. Then Joe Burrow to lead off the 7, Michael Thomas, Gabe Davis, Amon Ra, Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, Elijah Moore, Jalen Hurts, and Dak Prescott. So here immediately, things that stick out. We need some more wide receiver depth. We could use some tight end help. So TJ Hawkinson, Dalton Schultz. Let me quickly take a look at the draft board to see how many teams have a tight end already. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which means that 4 more teams need to draft a tight end. And I'm guessing it'll probably happen here if I don't do so, because they're kind of creeping up as the next guys. So right now here, I'm looking at Marquise Brown. I'm looking at Rashad Bateman. They're by far and away my next 2 best available players. I'm probably going to go with Marquise Brown just to give myself that little stack with Kyler Murray and him, especially with Hopkins being out for a good portion of the season. So I like that Marquise Brown pick. Here at tight end, TJ Hawkinson, Dalton Schultz. I would go probably Dalton Schultz just because I already have DeAndre Swift. I don't think the targets are going to be all that many for Hawkinson with so many weapons in Detroit now. Let me see where the ranking for Dalton Schultz is. So he's here at 77. He's not going to be there for us, I don't think, if we wait. So unfortunately, I'm going to kind of wave goodbye to Rashad Bateman and try and get what's left of that positional advantage at tight end. I think Dalton Schultz can be a top 5 guy again. So let's go with that here. And again, it hurts to say goodbye to Rashad Bateman, but I think you're going to see some tight ends being selected here in the next round, and it's going to justify what we did. So looking at it, yeah, I was kind of right, because in the 9th round, there was a run on tight ends. So again, this is what happens. Taking Dalton Schultz in the 8th round, it was early. It was a reach, but you had to know that there was going to be a run in the next 10 to 20 picks that was going to deplete the tight end position. So that's why we went with Dalton Schultz there. And again, we kind of waved goodbye to Rashad Bateman, but we were able to get Marquise Brown. So I'm not too upset about that. Names that here in the 8th round are tremendous value. Elijah Mitchell, tremendous value there, even though his ceiling is going to be hurt if, once Trey Lance becomes the starter. Other guys, Rashad Bateman, obviously, Darnell Mooney, love it. And then tight ends, TJ Hawkinson in the 9th round, that's tremendous value. So I like that as well. But now it's our turn to make a selection. And I'm looking at the cheat sheet really quickly here. Potential names. Tony Pollard is an intriguing name, if something happens to Ezekiel Elliott. But I'm going to go with guys that I'm very high on. I'm going to continue this trend. And Alan Lazard is on that list for me. So let's also bring up our roster here. So we've got a couple more picks to make. And it's going to be a situation where, okay, Alan Lazard is going to be one of them. And then afterwards, we can look at the running back position. We've got 3 names. Do you go Singletary? Do you go Pollard? I think it's a little bit too early for Pollard. So I'm just going to continue focusing on the wide receivers and looking at the draft board, the cheat sheet. The name that potentially sticks out is, I'd probably say, Russell Gage. If something were to happen to, Chris Godwin and his return is delayed. So let's go with Russell Gage here and then figure it out afterwards. So we're good on wide receivers now. And then we've got 2 more picks to make. I might go with a backup quarterback here just to give us some depth at the position. I'll probably go Matthew Stafford. I think he's a very safe quarterback option. And then let's see if there's something at tight end that I like. Giving myself a potential breakout in Cole Kmet is something that I also really, really like. Let's make sure we're not passing up on anything crazy at running back. Not that I see. So we're going to go with Cole Kmet here and kind of wrap up this thing. Let's see your draft grade. I actually think it might be decently high just because the approach that we took, But let's see. I'm curious because, oh, wow. Okay. Well, that was actually the opposite of what I expected. We get an F grade. But again, the reason that happened is because we went off our own draft board. And we went with Travis Etienne in the 3rd round. We went with Allen Robinson in the 6th round, Kyler Murray in the 5th round, because we anticipated these quarterback runs. We understand the importance of getting positional advantages in these smaller leagues. So definitely not an F grade. You can ignore that. Breaking down the roster, we've got tremendous depth at quarterback, at tight end, at running back. So honestly, I'm giving this a B grade at worst. But hey, let me know your thoughts. Do you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have? If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe. And in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.